Hey, so it looks like maybe there's some confusion about how UVs and materials work. Uh, I'm not sure. I was just going to do this jacket and show you um, how to make a mask for it and then how to plug it in. The problem is like when I load this file up, I'm not sure if you are getting the same thing, but the one that I got off of Google had like 2,000 materials in here, or not 2,000, but it had a bunch, right? So I went to edit, delete unused nodes, and it turns out, okay, well, we've got like 4 materials or 3 materials, so that's going to be a lot more manageable. But then when I go and look at how the UVs are laid out with the material, so, okay, I want to grab the jacket material. So I can go to edit, select materials from object, and it looks like it's selected these 2 materials, which means that there's 2 materials on one object, which you can do, but it's just not ideal. The other thing is if I select these 2 materials and then go select what objects they're attached to, like number 1, we need to name them like jacket material, pants material, shirt material. That way we know what's what. And this is just par for the course. Welcome to production. Some people don't name or organize things very well, and it's just you have to go figure it out, which is why there's tools like select object with materials. And then it says it's everything. Basically the pants, the body, the jacket, the shirt, the shoes, the hands are all with this 2 materials, which you can do. You can do it with 1 material. You just have to lay your UVs out right. But when we go look at our UVs, so window, they're all over each other. So we can't paint a map for that. So that means that we have to, so it looks like the jacket and the shirt, no, see how those, the jacket and the shirt are already overlapping? So that's not going to work. So how about the jacket and the collar? Nope, those aren't going to work because those are also overlapping. So we just have to like move the UVs so that when we have a material, we want to paint it, especially with characters, the UVs can't overlap. And you can have like as many materials as you want. I would suggest you only have like 3. So it looks like the body's laid out fairly well so that there's no UV overlaps, which is good, which means that we can paint a mask for that. So maybe I'll just export that. As like short kid body, because we need to paint all that out anyway. And then we need to assign, well, the first thing we need to do is just move this. And then we just grab that. And bear with me, it's been a while since I modeled in Maya. I think it's just combine, right? There we go. Combine. So now we have, well, we should have 1 object. This doesn't have an interior, does it? Okay. Mesh, combine, please. Now it's 1 mesh. Okay. And all the UVs are in their own place. Great. Now all we need is a different material that's named properly. So then what we can do is go to Windows, Hypershade. We can just duplicate this Lambert, make sure it's named right. Oh, sure, there's none. Oh, it's probably... Let's make a new one. Create material Lambert jacket. And then I always put material at the end so that we know what kind of an object it is. And then we can grab that, middle click, select that. Great. Now we have an object that has its own material, no overlapping UVs, and we can export that to paint. And I'm just going to paint it in 3D coat, but you can paint it in anything you want. Substance painter's fine. And all you need is just the black and white. I mean, you can plug it into the albedo, or you can. I mean, you're just going to export it to a JPEG anyway, so you can just plug it into albedo or color map. Okay. So now that we've got that straightened out, we can come in here. You see what happens when you pull it into your 3D program and you go, yeah, I want to paint everything that's in the initial shading group. Well, all that stuff is totally overlapping. So we need different materials on different UV sets, if that makes any sense. I mean, you could lay it all out under one material, but you just have to have like a bigger map, 8K or something. So I'm going to start over here. So let's do the jacket first. So if I import this, so that's interesting. It's telling me that it still has 4 UV sets, which is strange. So this may be time to pause the video and figure out what's going on. So this is just so I can, once I paint, it'll mirror it whatever I do. So if I come over here with my brush, and I'm just going to make it green so you can see what's going on. That's going to be too small. So whenever I paint, then over here, I'm not sure why that name didn't come over. Anyway, okay, I named it in the wrong place. So there's my jacket, and there's my paint on my jacket. Great. So now, what I can do is turn off, because I just want this to go straight through. So I'm just going to go into like my front view and kind of paint that same area. Well, actually, the first thing I'm going to do is just flood the whole thing white, make sure that it's all pure white. So I'm just going to go to fill, and then everything should be good to go. Great. So now it's all white, even though it doesn't really look white here. I don't know why it doesn't. Oh, maybe it's because my opacity is at 34%. Now we have a pure white jacket. So now what we're going to do is we're going, okay, where are our stripes going to be? I'm going to come in, and rather than a free, I'm going to have this tool. I'm going to make this completely black. And I'm going to do that. Ish. Rough. If you don't want the collar to be blue as well, you can come back, and I've never actually tried to paint in the UV editor before, would seem like you could. You just do it in Photoshop too. Yeah, sweet. That's a good little program. So then we can just take the collar out. And let's say we want the little sleeves to be that way too. Again, I'm just doing quick and dirty so you can see what's going on. Cool. So let's just say that's where we want blue. So then, right now I've got this in my albedo map, so I'm going to go to Texture, Export, Albedo or Color. Again, as long as we're getting a... I'm just going to go over and use one of the other projects that's already in Art Center, so we don't have to set this up. Or maybe I can put it in Tall Wall. Right on. We get to make our first art folder. And JPEG's fine. Jacket mask. So just as a reminder, you can hit import here, but I kind of like to do it by hand because I want to see what I'm importing. You can right click, go to File Import, and then I'm going to pull in his jacket object, and well, I'll pull it all in. So then, what we want to do is make sure that we have the jacket. Probably won't need a gun. And then I'm going to make it just a new material from scratch so you can see exactly how we're going to build it. Call this jacket. Oops, I didn't put MAT on it. Double click it, and then that's going to take us in here. And then what we want to do is we're going to have two colors. So we'll hold down the 3 key, click, that'll give us a color. And then we want to make sure that it's set to a parameter, and we'll call this color 1, and then duplicate it. Call this color 2. So this is going to be the white and the blue in this jacket. And we'll just go ahead and set this default to 2. For blue, set this one to white. And then, so we're going to take that mask that we made in our 3D program, our 3D Paint program. Open this up so we can see it a little better. Okay, so that's going to be our alpha channel, and we're going to hold down L for lerp. That's linear interpolation, so it's basically saying I want to go from A to B. So we're going to stick A. Oops, no, we don't want that. We want the color. That's the alpha channel. Color, and then we're going to use this color as alpha because we're plugging it into an alpha channel, which just means it's just a mask. Same thing as mask. And then we'll pull this into the base color, and then we'll save that and come back to here. Ooh, oops. So it looks like we got them swapped. So, there's a couple ways we could fix it. I like thinking of the one as, so this will be our blue color, and this will be our white color. And then you got to make sure to save it. And now you can also tweak it, right? Say you want it to be, maybe that blue's too blue, or the white needs to have more gray in it. Now we can actually tweak it in Unreal depending on what our light is. So using it that way. And the other thing is, if we decide, oh well, I want some cloth in this white area, we can just take this out. Come over to, I think we've got some starter content in here. Let's see if we got textures. We'll just use, see if we've got a cloth texture in here. Probably not. What the heck that stuff is? I've never seen that before. We'll just use one of these icon textures. We'll just use like this window texture. So like, oh well, instead of the blue, we want to have cloth. You just plug that into A, save it. I mean, obviously that texture can be anything. So maybe not. Stick in there, go. And then you can use that instead of in our blue area, we can have cloth, or we can have blue cloth, or whatever you want. So, yeah. And then I'll show you in a separate video. It's the same thing. Instead of this, we just paint black out where the skin is, and then instead of plugging it into the base color, we set this object to, instead of material blend mode opaque, we set it to translucent, and then we just pipe that into the opacity. Let's change this back to a color so it makes more sense. Of course, again, we're just using the black and white, but and then we can plug anything we want into the color. Like right now, I just plugged that into the opacity, so the base color is black. So we need to put another color or another texture into that. Make it purple, so we know what's what. So now, see wherever the skin is, it's going to be clear. And then we've got, again, ignore where the mask is. I'm saying if it's on his body, we make his body clear, and then his hands and his head or his neck is really all we need to be opaque. So those will just be white. And all solved. Happy holidays. Have a good weekend.